Okay, subtracting fractions. Okay, in order to subtract fractions, we need to have a common denominator. In this case, we already have a common denominator. So once we have that, then we just simply subtract our numerators. So 3 minus 1 is 2 over 9. Okay? Now, in this video, we're going to look at subtracting where our denominators are not the same, and we're going to learn how to do that. So let's look at some. Okay, 5/7 minus 2/3. Okay, as we said, in order to subtract fractions, we have to have a common denominator. So we need to find a common denominator for 7 and 3. In fact, we want to find the least common denominator, and that's also going to be our least common multiple. So I'm going to list out the multiples of 7. So the multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21, 28, 35. Multiples of 3, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 21. Okay, so now I can see that I have 21 and I have 21. So if I kept on going, I would have more multiples, but my least common multiple that 7 and 3 both share is 21. So 5 over 7 is going to be something over 21 minus something over 21. Okay, so now that I've found my least common denominator, I need to create equivalent fractions. So 5 over 7 equals something over 21. So what do I do to the 7 to make it a 21? Well, that's times 3. And the equal sign, if I do something to the denominator, I have to do it to the numerator. So times 3. And I get 15 over 21. So 5 over 7 becomes 15 over 21. Now I need an equivalent fraction for 2/3. So 2/3 equals something over 21. What do I do to the 3 to make it a 21? Well, it's times 7. So if I do the denominator by 7, I do the numerator by 7, and that's 14. So 2/3 becomes 14 over 21. So now I have a common denominator, equivalent fractions, I can subtract. 15 minus 14 is 1 over 21, and that's my final answer, and that's in simplest form. Let's do some more. Okay, 3/4 minus 3/8. I've got to have a common denominator. I can see that 4 will go into 8, so I know my common denominator is going to be 8. Well, let me just show you that. Multiples of 4 will be 4, 8, 12, 16. Multiples of 8 would be 8, 16, 24, etc. Okay, so they both share 16, but the least common multiple that they both share is 8, and that's what we want to work with. So that's why I changed it to something over 8. So I've found the common denominator. Now I got to create equivalent fractions. So 3 over 4 becomes something over 8. Well, to get from 4 to 8, I multiply by 2. So I'll do the numerator also by 2, but keep it equal because I've got an equal sign. So that's 6 over 8. 3 over 4 becomes 6 over 8. Well, 3 over 8 is already has a denominator of 8, so I don't have to do anything to it. So 6 over 8 minus 3 over 8, my denominator stays the same. I subtract my numerators, and I get 3 over 8. So 3/4 minus 3/8 equals 3 over 8. Okay? Let's do some more. Okay, 1/2 minus 1/7. All right. Let's list the multiples of 2. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. Multiples of 7. 7, 14, 21, 28. Okay, so I can see that the least common multiple of 2 and 7 is 14. And again, if I kept on going out, I'd have more multiples that they share. Okay, 28 would be the next one. But again, we want the least common multiple. Also, you notice 2 times 7 is 14. So in this case, multiplying the denominators, which will always give you a factor, will always give you a, so notice in this case, if we multiply 2 times 7, we would get 14. 2 times 7, multiplying the denominators will always give you a common factor, but it's not always going to be the least common factor. In this case, 2 times 7 is the least common factor. So it is our least common denominator also. Okay, so 1/2 plus 1/7 is something over 14 minus something over 14. All right, so 1/2 equals something over 14. Well, I know half of 14 is 7. Okay, 2 times 7 is 14, 1 times 7 is 7. So 7 over 14. All right, now I need 1 over 7 to equal something over 14. Well, what do I do to the 7 to make it a 14? Well, that's times 2. Multiply the denominator by 2. We've got to multiply the numerator by 2, and that would be 2. So my equivalent fractions for 1/2 and 1/7 are 7/14 and 2/14. So now that I have a common denominator and equivalent fractions, I can subtract. My denominator will be the same, and 7 minus 2 is 5 over 14. And again, this is simplest form because 5 and 14 do not share a factor other than 1 that will go into both of them. Okay? All right, let's do one more. Okay, 4/5 minus 2/9. Okay, I need to get a common factor, and I want to get the least common factor. So I'm going to list the multiples of 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, multiples of 9. Now I know that I'm going to need a multiple of 9 that has a 5 in it, or a 0. Okay, because 5 it ends with the multiples of are all 5s or 0. But I know that 9, 18, 27, 36, 45. There's my multiple that ends with a 5. So yes, 45 is the least common denominator, least common multiple. All right, so something over 45 minus something over 45. All right, so I found my common denominator. Now I need to get equivalent fractions. Sum of 4 over 5 equals something over 45. Well, what do I do to the 5 to make it 45? Well, that's times 9. I do it to the denominator. You've got to do it to the numerator. That's 36. So my equivalent fraction for 4/5 is 36 over 45. Now I need to do 2/9. So 2/9 equals something over 45. 9 times 5 is 45, so 2 times 5 is 10. Okay, so that's minus 10. Okay, so my equivalent fractions for 4/5 and 2/9 are 36 over 45 and 10 over 45. So now I'll subtract, and I know my denominator will be the same. So 36 minus 10 is 26 over 45. All right, so there you have it. Again, a quick review on how we do this. We have to have a common denominator to be able to subtract. Once we get a common denominator, we need equivalent fractions. So once we get a common denominator, we get equivalent fractions, and then we subtract numerators. Our denominator stays the same, and that's how we subtract when we have uncommon denominators. All right, thanks for watching. See you.